cool. Whenever I learn how to use this, I can maybe go forward to the my introduction. So I'm Tatu. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Latent. In my previous life, I was a senior art director at Rovio Entertainment. I've been in the gaming industry roughly 25 years. My background is in traditional arts, and I've been working on digital art since the 1990s. I've shipped over 50 games. Honestly, I stopped counting around 50. I don't have anywhere anymore the full discography or CV of all the games I've made, but I've made few, and I've also worked with some big international brands like South Park, Quantum Break, and Angry Birds. For the past 11 years, prior to starting my company, Latent, with my co-founder Jorge, I worked almost 11 years at Rovio. So quite a lot of time looking at angry avians. I think I would like to also tell a little bit about my journey into AI and how I ended up from traditional arts background to working 100% every day on AI related stuff. So let's look at that. For that story, you have to really go back to the dark ages. I feel like some of you might have heard me talk about this stuff because I have this in a couple of my presentation. I always also, this part of this presentation is part of the GDC presentation I did last year at San Francisco. But it kind of illustrates where I'm coming from. My background is doing this kind of stuff in the 90s. Putting these text mode graphic blocks, one block at a time on a screen. And I still do this stuff to the day. Like there's still ways of, if you're interested in this stuff, you can still download a working executable text mode graphic editor. You can, for example, try to make a custom logo like this for your CLI for VS Code terminal, for example. Those skills that I learned at that phase of my career, they really translated pretty well to the pixel art that I was doing in the early 2000s, and that landed my first gaming industry job at Mr.Goodliving at quite start of the millennium. Then at some point I started doing more and more 3D. This was one of my personal projects that I did in 2022, where I tried to do these simple illustrations, one illustration per day, and trying to challenge myself with these limitations of whatever I can do in a single day. That was the challenge. Then later in the year 2020, I started looking more and more into generative AI, especially in the November, December of that year. I started finding ways of using the technology that was available back then, like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, and I started finding ways of using it in a productive way. One of the things that I early on did with it was creating images, vectorizing them, and making apparel like this t-shirt over here. I also started using it more and more at work. And by the end of 2024, this was the quality that we had reached at Rovio Puzzle Studio. we were mainly focusing on the background illustrations. We actually ended up setting a rule for ourselves that we should never use AI for any of the brand essential assets because we need a certain kind of precision with those assets that at least the AI tools that were available back then weren't able to provide. So we used AI more for the things that allowed a little bit more room for happy accidents. And by what that I mean that when you have like a tree on the background of an illustration, you don't really need every single branch to go exactly in a certain way, but it's a totally different ball game when you're trying to illustrate the main characters. You can't have red blending into Chuck or Chuck blending into Bomb, or you can't have the ball-shaped Angry Birds blending into the movie universe version of that same character. And that was mainly, those were the problems that we were seeing with the 2024 era AI. But that's a long time ago. The technology has moved forward. We also found really great ways of using AI for nailing the exact art style. This is one of those use cases that I still use it quite a lot. Back then at Rovio, we were using a lot more of like proprietary models trained very, very specifically with our internal data sets. But you can do the same with the open source models and the publicly available models. One thing that I often try to do is that I try to be very systematic, that then once I figure out an art style, I can use that as a template. And then for the non-brand essential content treadmills, I can use AI heavily. Nobody, I would say absolutely nobody wants to be doing hundreds and hundreds of illustrations per year, which was the case for example, card collections in free-to-play gaming. Basically, you would, in order to have that kind of a feature in your game, you need to have 3 or 4, maybe 5 illustrations being done every day of the year. So you need to have like a huge army of illustrators doing that stuff. And in most studios, even in the scale of Rovio, that's just not sustainable. That's not what we would do. Then we also realized that you can use this same technology for animating the kind of things that weren't animated before. And this is, I have to say, this is the 2024 quality of what was possible around 2 years ago. What we have available for us today is already a totally different ballpark. There's also a lot of these less controversial use cases for AI. I know that it's a touchy topic, and we go to the problems with AI later in this presentation, but this was actually one of the use cases that was kind of universally loved within our studio back then. We basically set it up as a Slack bot that you send a file and you receive the same file 4x resolution. Amazing. Because we were doing a lot of this, that you might have in-game asset like this one here that was in 512 by 512, and you could just upscale it to 32K resolution. Amazing. Really, really loved feature all around. This is also the 2024 quality or early 2025 quality of what you could do with 3D models back then. Nowadays, we finally have retopo, and it's not nearly as messy as it was a couple of years ago. But already back then, there was a lot of this possible. For me, like one of the big changes was when I started to realize that I can also use AI for things that I just couldn't do. So I come from the artist background. I've done some programming in my youth, but I haven't been doing programming in a long while, and I couldn't do this kind of content like this tool here that I did in 2025. It's a simple to-do app where you can swipe left and right. And once you've done that, you can go and just automatically generate a daily report of what you have actually accomplished during that day. And you can then copy and paste it directly to your messaging app. I also did some of these tools like industry trend predictors. We actually have something similar in our current company's Slack as well. Idea being that you scrape a lot of industry news and then you make analyses based on those, and you have highlights and you have trend signals and so forth, and you're able to export a PDF directly and have some future hypotheses. Also, one of the very big moments for me as an kind of coming from the arts background was when I advanced more from just vibe coding tools for myself, and I went into vibe coding shaders and VFX. Because this has been one of those things that has always been super slow. Like either you have very visually gifted programmers that just get your vision, or you have to be using a lot of pair working time trying to explain them how do you want some effect to appear. And there's something really cool when you can be the vision holder, the visual architect, and you can program your stuff yourself. And these are also the areas where I learned the most. I think like many people in regards to AI, one of their fears is that cognitive erosion, that are we just off putting off our own decision making, and are we understanding anything anymore because we can just use this shortcut, which is an AI, to do things for us. But for me, it's kind of a combination of having worked in the industry for 25 years, being always interested about everything the people around me do, and I have quite a good superficial understanding of a lot of these concepts, which was very helpful when I did, for example, VFX, that I knew how to do this manually. So I know that one way of making this kind of explosions, for example, that I wanted to do is that you generate a fractal Perkin noise map, and then you're rotating the UV coordinates. That's how you do these explosions. I didn't have to go and learn that stuff. I knew it. And then I just could ask AI to do it for me and iterate on the parameters and how exactly that explosion works. And it's a hugely powerful thing. And that also then led me to make this game. This game actually started from that explosion effect. I made an explosion. I thought it was cool enough that I wanted to make a full game around it. We didn't want to actually commercialize it. It says download from the App Store and Google Play, but we didn't even bother putting it there. But it's online. It's available in the defentries.com website. We might put it in the App Store and Google Play when we have time to put a little bit more effort to it. And I would say that maybe working on that and realizing that I can make games on my own, especially when I have somebody helping me going around some of the big hurdles, like how do I install Python? How do I get Codex CLI working? Or how do I get this and that done? How do I make SQL databases? How should I construct the back end of my games? So those discussion then end up into the formation of my company, Odd Latent. And sorry for giving a little bit of an hype of our company, but I wanted to also kind of transition here to the telling a little bit more about our company and why we did it the way we did it. So we founded the company on a really simple idea. Making games is too time intensive and risky. What I mean by that is that we started to see that the whole industry is in an unhealthy place. The games we were seeing were largely just copies of copies. All the games started to look like they are copies of each other. It started to be very formulaic industry. And it's mainly because making games became too time intensive and risky. In many cases, in the free-to-play puzzle category that is very close to my heart and what I've been working on for many years now, it sometimes took 2 years, 70 people before you even got to test whether the game works or not. Huge investment from any company. So that leads to everybody doing risk mitigation, doing less riskier bets. We wanted to condense that time from 70 people and 2 years into 2 people and 2 weeks. Huge compression of time. But we didn't want to do it just to be faster. We wanted to do it because we wanted to make better games. And that's what we started on. So our company is now 6 months old. During the first 4 months of existence, we have launched 4 games. Initially, we raised an pre-seed in October. We wanted to have the demo of Defentries ready for Slush. That did happen. And then after Slush or during Slush, we decided that, hey, let's really put our hypotheses to the test. Let's start from a new game project from scratch. Let's try to finish it before the end of the year. And that became Solotile. We're really happy about how it turned out. It's probably not perfect. I think we largely failed to find the real fun in the core game, and we will need to be working on that in future. But for us, the main goal with this game was to test our approach and really validate whether we're able to move closer and closer to that 2 people, 2 weeks goal that we had set for ourselves. We quite quickly followed up with Toon Tiles, that is kind of a similar game, but more in the triple tile category. And then we made a game called Alpha Pile, and then we put Defentris out in the website. So during the first 4 months in business, we did launch 4 games, and then we made more games. Some of them, I have to admit, we just did for pure love for making games. Like, absolutely no commercial viability. Tile Wisp, one of my favorite game from our portfolio. It doesn't even have IAPs enabled. We just put it out so people can enjoy it just as we are enjoying it. Same thing with, well, this isn't yet even out. I just wanted to make a game that is quite similar to some of the games that I liked when I was young, playing games with C64 and Amiga, and I wanted to try this something that is very retro and more on the indie game direction. Same could be said by this. It's not yet out. I own the .com domain, but we haven't yet put even a teaser website of it out. But I tried to make the most uncommercial, most unexpected game that I could. I made the Orbit Born, that is basically settlers and civilization combined with galactic warfare and trading. It's a 4x strategy game, multiplayer, where you also have huge PvE element, because if you are mining the planets too hard, there's crab people, and the crab people will wake up and kill everybody and start spreading across galaxy. Kind of fun game, one of my favorites, again, from our portfolio. So this is just to kind of illustrate that we are not going for the speed and pace for the sake of pace and speed. We are doing it so that we can also take more risks. We don't have to do so calculated bets. We can, if you only can launch one game per year, you have to make that one bet count. But when we're in the pace where we're able to launch 20 games if we want to per year, we can take some risks as well. We also did a lot of other stuff than just games. So like said, we're a team of 2. We also made our own centralized LiveOps tool. We made our own backend solution that helps us in deploying features from one game to another. We made our own AI-assisted dev orchestrator that is basically allowing us to work on multiple branches of the same project simultaneously on a single machine. So instead of like you being locked in one feature branch, you can be working on 20 feature branches simultaneously on the same project on one local machine, and have AI agents working on all of those branches. Then we made our own agentic flow structure that brings the structure for the agentic work. Like, one of the things that I hear many people question about AI is the hallucinations and whether it's controllable. Well, we found ways of controlling it by forcing it to work according to the structures and limitations. So it gets the things that needs to be always a certain way, like, for example, the game structure, or how do you do a Google authentication or Apple login. Like all of those things are in the structures and in the skill files, and then the AI agents can be both creative and systematic at the same time. The agentic flow platform could be a presentation of its own, but I don't want to go too deep into that. The thing is that when we were also developing these games, every iteration of those tools made us faster and faster. And currently we are on track to be making over 1,000 games this year. But don't worry, we're not intending to launch even a fraction of those. Most of those games are getting killed in a prototype phase. We could be killing some of them even earlier, and we might have to think about it. But currently, we want to be getting as many games to the prototype stage as possible and selecting the best and most fun games from those prototypes in hopes of finding the real gems out of those. So maybe you're kind of starting to get the picture that in many companies, and I've been also reading some GameCity Kajaani discussions in some of the Slack in the Discord channels. There's a lot of teams thinking about where to use AI. And I know that pain. I've been in big corporations. Rovio, that was one of the things that the management was always asking, and I was asking from my teams, where can we use AI? Like, this thing is emerging, where can we put it? So when others are thinking about where to use AI, in our company, we're thinking about where to fit people. So we are starting from the idea that AI will be able to handle everything, but we really need to do a lot of work in figuring out where to fit the people. What is the unique value that humans are bringing to the projects? We have our perspectives on that, but we are also living already in this realization that AI will be able to handle everything. And when I say everything, I mean actually everything. We haven't yet found anything that AI couldn't do. So on some areas, AI is doing things kind of like okay, but not great. But we're also reminding ourselves all the time that this is the shittiest version of AI that you will ever use. It's only going to be getting better and better. Well, depending on your perspective, it might be the doomsday scenario. So maybe better and better is not the right phrase to be used here. Personally, I still believe that people will be holding on to the vision and loving the games, and I don't see AI doing that on a high quality anytime soon. So that's currently the place where we are using AI the most, or people the most, is putting them in charge of the vision, putting them in a position where they can assume the role of an end user and really put their heart into the game and trying to think of like, how can I make the best possible experience for all the users? And that's one of those places that we've identified where people still should be doing the work instead of AI. And when we find those right people, all they need is a vision. And what we try to then do is that we try to put them in a position where they can focus fully to the vision. And we build them tools so that the AI and the bot and the engineering behind the bots and the AI can do the rest. Everything else should be automatic. That's how we're approaching it in my company. In practice, it can look like this, that we have a Slack bot. It could be a Discord bot as well. We have currently the Slack bot, and we have some websites. No matter where you drop the prompt, you can, for example, write it that make me a prototype of a domino game where and then you explain a little bit what's important in this game, and the bot takes the request and takes it to our back-end system with the agentic flows, starts preparing the core gameplay for that game, but it also launches some things like nostalgic name flow, and visual polish flow, and all of these are then kind of their own flows altogether. They are fairly complex. There's a lot of technology behind how we use AI in production. What comes out is a prototype together with some kind of branding. So it comes up with a name suggestion, a logo, and a prototype. And you can play the game and see whether that prototype has any validity to continue forward into a full game project. You can also take some of those elements and ask, for example, the bot to animate it, and it will do that as well. So we are trying to not think, we don't want to be limiting ourselves to what we know we can do, or what artist can do, what programmer can do. We try to make the user interface as simple as possible, have as much of automation, and kind of almost like a black box that you don't need to have the knowledge of how to do this stuff in a detail. Part of the vision for then making games is also caring for the game and knowing what to iterate. And this is an example of one early prototype that then ended up into being the current version of Solotile. What I did with the initial prototype was that it was kind of intended to be a Mahjong type of game, and I vibe coded the first prototype while I was running from hotel lobby to another at Slush and demoing them a totally different game. So that was fully vibe coded on a phone while I was having business meetings. So that brings us to the question that where is that leaving us with AI? Where are we heading with AI? I think this picture is probably a good picture. How I'm still thinking that even with all of those things that I showed in the earlier part of this presentation, we're still in the very top of this iceberg. We're not even close to what AI will be able to do on the long run. Depending on your perspective, it can be very scary picture. And I have to admit, it's been a really big change. But then again, if you think about the career I've had, During the time in my time in the industry, the only thing constant has been the change. If I think about my life, like I was born in 1980s into the world where there was no mobile phones, there was no internet, there was bulletin board systems, there was no handheld devices other than maybe a Walkman. Music videos were a new thing. It was a totally revolutionizing technology. So there's been a lot of change in my lifetime and quite a lot of change in my time in the industry. I mean, first there was the internet, then there was the mobile phones, then there was the social media. And as an artist, I had to go from 16 colors and text mode to 8-bit with pixel art, 32-bit with full transparency and no size limitations, to 3D, and then later on to AI. And ultimately, I had to go from artist to AI assisted 360 solo developer, and from that to the studio CEO and co founder I'm now. A lot of change. But nothing has been as big of a change as this last one. AI is becoming the most transformative change any of us has had to live through. And regardless of how we think about AI, we can't escape it. It's just like climate change. It is happening whether we like it or not. With climate change, I hope that we have a chance of changing the trajectory where we're heading. With AI, I'm not that sure. The reason why I'm thinking like that is that you could take away all the internet tools. You could destroy OpenAI as a company. You could bankrupt Gemini and Google. But then people would just run these with their gaming laptops, gaming desktops. You can already run, like if you're happy with the current quality of the technology, you can run LLMs in the current quality with a decent gaming desktop. We have a Mac Mini running quite cool language models. You can run pretty darn good image models on a 5090 or 5080 RTX GPU. So depending on your perspective, you can see this change as either the picture on the left or the right. It can seem like a new opportunity, things like everything's awesome, or it can seem scary as hell. And I have sympathy for both of those perspectives. I'm maybe leaning on always seeing the bright side on everything. That's just who I am. Well, actually, if you talk with people who know me, I'm often the doom and gloom guy, but genuinely, I always see the positive, the opportunities, and so far. You can also see it as an iceberg. I do think that that's a good analogy because we truly are only at the beginning of this transformation. And it's not a change that would come without problems. Whenever there's a change this big, there's also fear and concerns. And I think we shouldn't hide the fact that this technology can be problematic. We should be engaging with discussions on this topic. My problem always, often, is that the people who should be seeing this discussion and taking part of this discussion are not attending my lectures. So if there's people who absolutely hate AI and anything AI related in the audience, great. Then I hope that I'm able to leave a mark. Often AI hype men, AI technologists, AI company CEOs, we're always talking in our own biased bubble, and then the other people are in their own bubbles. But the fact is that AI isn't fully unproblematic. It's extremely capable for harmful content creation. And we're already living in a world where it's impossible to know what is AI and what is not. You can't trust a single video or image on internet. You can't trust academic sources as much as you were able to trust, because even people in academia are using AI for their papers. Then there are the IP rights issues. Personally, I don't think that it's a good thing that happened how some of the image models were trained. I think it's at least on the gray area, if not fully unethical. It doesn't change the fact that it happened. And there is no way of putting that genie in the bottle. There is also another IP rights related problem, and it's that there's more and more people who have absolutely no idea of the visual culture creating images, and the risk of them unintentionally infringing other people's IP rights just gets higher and higher. At least in the olden days, it took intention from the artist to intentionally infringe other people's IPs, and that happened a lot. Now people are infringing other people's IP rights without even knowing that that's what they're doing. Then with AI, one thing to keep in mind is that these models have been trained with all the biases in the datasets. And when you have trained things with the whole human corpus of knowledge, it has all the same biases that we have in our society. So if you ask it, for example, an image of people in a very important meeting, the likelihood of you getting a room full of white middle-aged men just is pretty high. And if you don't want that to happen, if you don't want to be perpetuating some of these sometimes harmful negative stereotypes, you have to be more precise with your prompting. You need to be asking the diversity into the picture, because these are statistical models. They are not in any way like ethically neutral. There is no neutrality. Then there's the problem with the environment. One thing that is being talked about quite a lot is the energy consumption of especially training these models. That is true. It is extremely energy. It takes a lot of energy to train, especially the bigger foundational models. That's not what you are doing when you are using the inference. The usage of the models is quite negligible. In the big scale, of course, it amasses to quite a lot of energy consumption. And then there is stupidity around this, like some of the US big corporations running their data centers with Wärtsilä diesel engines instead of solar power. So that's just absolutely stupid. Then there is the other environmental thing that gets talked about quite a lot is the water usage, which is more of a local problem, not a global problem, because the water that is used in usually cooling, it's not disappearing anywhere. It's mostly evaporating, going to the sky, raining back down. But it's a real problem in especially if you have data centers or AI training facilities in a dry climate and you are using a lot of the water locally. Then there is also the often cited number that once ChatGPT prompt takes around half a liter of water, but you should compare it to how much water is being wasted when you are producing one steak. One steak is around 20,000 liters compared to that half a liter of your ChatGPT request. So go vegetarian, go vegan. One skipped meat meal equals roughly your whole year's usage of ChatGPT. Then there is the problem with enshittification of pretty much everything at this point. I talk about entertainment in particular, but it is maybe nowadays I'm thinking about it from the perspective that it's kind of a result of the hypersaturation of pretty much any form, any media. There is just way too many games, way too many music pieces, way too much literature. I think I heard one quote that this during this year we're producing more music every day than 1 year in the 1980s. So we are being flooded with content. The image here, if you're wondering, it's the use of the word delve that was kind of minimal until ChatGPT was released, and then it just skyrocketed. And this picture is only in academic papers. So it's a clear evidence that AI is being used also in academia, in those scientific papers that we need to be trusting. It's kind of then, let's segue to the cognitive erosion problem, which is that most people are lazy. We try to find the easiest way of doing anything. People from my generation often can relate to the image here. We still remember the time when we were first time introduced the first calculator, usually around grade 9 or 10 or something like that. And until that moment, we had been calculating everything in our head. Then we are given a calculator, and suddenly our ability to count even as basic calculus in our head starts to decline very, very rapidly. Then maybe as one of the kind of biggest things is the AI's ability to disrupt industries. When there is change this magnitude, it will disrupt businesses. It will lead to layoffs. It will lead to job loss. It will lead to people unable to make business in some areas of entertainment. It's going to be huge, and we're only seeing the very small part of it. Some jobs will become obsolete. In our organization, we are already thinking about like what are the roles in future game development studio. We don't necessarily see that programming, an artist, and designer should be three different people, but we are trying to hire people who can do all of those three. So the demand for the future talent is also going higher and different. The working ways are also changing. Don't worry, there's probably still easily 5, maybe 6 years where there will be big studios that are going to be working exactly as they have been. But there's going to be a lot more, they're going to be losing a lot more of their foothold in the industry for newcomers that are doing things very, very differently. Personally, I also remain optimistic that as a society we will find solutions to most of these challenges because we really don't have any alternatives. There's really no going back. 90% of our competitors are already using AI in one way or another. The number here could be 100. I just do believe that there's still probably some indie game developers who are folding in the pressure from their fans and the toxic minority that is highly against AI, and they don't dare to do what would be best for their studios. Well, I'm biased, sorry. What I think about is this, that fully opting out from AI is an illusion. You can choose in your studio and your team that, hey, we don't want to be using AI. We want to be the last artisans of the industry. We want to be doing it the good old fashioned way. We want to be doing it like they did it in the 1980s. We don't even want to be using Unity. But even if you're able to opt out from using AI, which is starting to become harder and harder because AI is making its way to every single office tool imaginable, you can't really opt out from the industry. You can't force your competition not to use AI. So when you are going fully natural, you are going to be going more and more increasingly against people and studios that are using AI. You're also going to be launching your products to a market where more and more of your users are using AI every day. They are using it in their computers, they are using it in their phones, they are using it when they're doing their shopping, they are doing it when they're talking to their car, when the cars start to have more and more voice mode activations. They are probably at some point using AI when they are talking to their fridge. The Internet of Things coupled with AI means that there's going to be more and more AI in absolutely everything. And your users will expect everything to work in a smart way. And you can't opt out from that trend. The value proposition that no AI was used in making of this game is starting to lose its value when people expect AI to be the baseline. So personally, I think that we owe it to ourselves, our people, and our fans to adapt and explore how to deal with this change. This was from my presentation over a year ago in GDC in Frisco, and I still stand by it. the time to act is now. Because the change is not in some distant future, it's happening right now. No matter what we like it or not, AI is making its way to all the tools we are already using. One of my favorite AI tools is Photoshop. It's not good for generating images, except maybe nowadays because you have access to other models through Photoshop as well. But it's already one of the best tools for removing artifacts and putting things on layers, cleaning up your images, expanding your images, and so on. So don't be fooled by the slop layer. What I mean by this is that when you are seeing the internet full of AI slop, it's the price of democratization. It's more of a factor of more and more people being able to express themselves visually that couldn't do that before. So it's more about that than anything else. Most people have absolutely no clue of how to describe things in natural language. They go to some of these places like ChatGPT and ask for an image of a man who had a great idea. They don't know how to describe it in any better way. And then what you get is the most generic AI slop possible. And we are still in the beginning. We are at the very top of the iceberg, and we don't even have concepts or words for a lot of the things that are under the surface. The best way for you to be ready for the changes that is still yet to come is to understand the current version of the technology and how it works fundamentally. I think the important thing is that you understand that it's not magic, that it's not smart, well, debatable, and that AI is fundamentally a prediction machine. It tries to go for the statistical averages. A lot of it is just basic Markov chains and diffusion models and transformers. As an example, let's look at the visual generative AI. This is how generative AI works, the visual one, is that you take billions of images with their text descriptions. So here we have a cat in a living room and a picture of a cat in a living room, and then we destroy that image by adding noise one step at a time. And we teach this algorithm how to reverse the noise addition in an image guided by a text. And then when you're generating images, you do just the reverse. You're starting from random noise and you are giving it a prompt, and now it's trying to remove noise from noise until you get something that is close to your prompt. So to summarize and simplify, generative AI for the visual parts is mostly adding noise and removing noise. So how can you use AI? First, you need to understand the goal. You need to understand why are you making what you are making in the first place. If you are making art, maybe you shouldn't be using AI. If you are in it to make money, you should make that to your goal and try to figure out how you can get towards that goal. Then other thing that you should be looking into is this. These are, by the way, just snippets of my unreleased book that I will probably never ever release, but I'm happy to share some of these one-pagers. They are based on theory of constraints and my adaptation of those. When you're thinking about the goal, sometimes you are getting distracted and you are looking into the necessary conditions instead of the actual goal. If you think about a company, the actual goal is to secure the present and the future of the company or the project. You might have these necessary conditions that might feel sometimes like they're contradicting. You have your customer satisfaction now and in the future as one of the necessary conditions. With in regards to AI, might be that currently you are shipping to extremely hostile and toxic market where you can't really control the reaction your customers are having on AI. Then you do have your employee satisfaction. So this is the struggle that many big companies are having, that half of their staff is extremely against AI. So that half is basically paralyzing the progress in that company, and the company can't make progress. But without employee satisfaction, you can't have a company. Then you might have investor satisfaction, which is very important thing, because most of the time investor, especially for the startups and early game studios, that's where you're getting your money because you don't yet have customers. So you don't even get to necessarily start your journey if you're unable to get investors. Currently, investors are extremely AI positive. So some companies that are claiming to be AI native are just AI native on paper just to please the investors. But in order for you to secure the present and the future of your project or your company, you need to have all of these. You can't just go for one. You need to have customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, investor satisfaction. Goal-based decision-making process that I trust a lot is that you try to identify your goal, and then you do the research and understanding of the constraints. You identify the most important constraint, and then you are making every single step, just kind of trying to move more and more towards that. Then there's the finding of the level of simplicity. Every problem can be dissected to a level where it stops being complex. Another thing, the research and so forth. One thing, if you're thinking about how you can use AI, don't ask IT, ask it. You go to ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, and you ask how it can help you in the task you are currently doing. This is one of the fastest way for you to learn about things that you don't know about the topic that you should be researching on. This is the way that you are not putting the thinking or externalizing the thinking, but you are using AI to help you understand your research topic better. So if you would be, for example, doing global entertainment IP, you can use a prompt like this and ask AI how it can help you. I'll try to be fast because I think we're already quite little bit over time. But AI and legal. AI does change a lot of things with legal, but first you have to understand what you can protect legally. The golden rule of IP rights is that copyright protects the execution, trademark protects the brand, neither protects the idea. Actually, only NDA might be able to protect your idea, and even that does it very, very poorly. So nothing is protecting your idea. The trademarks are protecting your brand, and the copyrights are protecting your execution. But if you're using AI to generate your assets, you have to take it into account that AI doesn't have copyrights. So you have to put enough of human effort into making something in order for it to be copyrightable. But you have to also understand that in most cases, even though that individual assets that were 100% done by AI, they don't get the copyrights. Collage, yes, it might get copyrights, but in most cases, you don't actually need copyrights. What you need is trademarks. Let's skip this one. I'll share these slides later. So, for example, in this case, as the logo is largely AI made, there might be like very high likelihood that that wouldn't be copyrightable, but it doesn't exclude it from being trademarked. You can still make a figure mark for commercialization. Oh my god, can't speak anymore. You know what I mean. When you are working with AI and think about trademarks and stuff, you have to also think about what part of these things you should be trademarking and whether you should be going for figure marks or word marks. Like here, for example, going for the word mark probably gives you the best protection because you are basically registering the sequence of letters, not just how it looks like in a logo. You should also go for very broad trademark registrations. Try to, instead of just doing your registration in video games, do it in entertainment in general, apparel, drinkware, and so and so. Also good to remember that trademarks are strictly regional. So when you are doing your trademark registrations, you should be filing them in the regions where you're planning to do business. I do recommend the EU IPO that gives you the lock in the 27 member states of EU. And then maybe doing the WIPO through Madrid system, a centralized process that allows you to use your base European application seamlessly and affordably, blah, 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 so and so. So, last few slides, sorry I'm running this a little bit long, is a few things that I would like you guys to do in your current projects that are not generating images and are probably a lot more valuable than the other uses of AI you could do in the game development. It's doing stuff like this. When you are developing your projects, do a search. Like go to ChatGPT, use, for example, this prompt about namespace matrix, put your current project's name there and see how what it finds. It will most likely find some other games that are named the same way. It will give you a good understanding of what you are up against when you are trying to launch with that name. You can do things like this as well. You give information about your project and ask it to map the competitive field in 4 tiers: direct, indirect, substitutes, and search engine optimization, for example. This way you get, again, better understanding of what you are up against. So don't think of AI as the sloppy internet images. Try to think of AI as extremely powerful tool that you can delegate a lot of these very specialist things that you don't necessarily even have understanding or expertise to do manually. Many companies don't even have departments that could be doing this level of competitor analysis and put it out in a understandable form. You can also go to ChatGPT nowadays and ask for assets like these, like you can ask storyboards, banners, whatnot. Sometimes I would actually recommend trying out some of these and just absolutely doing a smoke test and seeing whether you're able to um, able to um, able to find the audiences for your future game. You can also do variants and try what if it would be that art style or that art style, or what if the whole idea would be a different. So that way you're able to validate a lot of the ideas in a lot earlier phase without putting all the effort of having your whole team work on it for a year before you're able to get any kind of feedback from or knowledge whether your idea even has any traction in the industry. Nowadays, you also can go to tools like Flow or use the ByteDance, Seedance 2.0, and you can generate videos in this quality. It's not perfect yet,
The dead do not stay
but it's
silent.
good enough for market testing. Or, for example, this game trailer. So, thank you. If you want to know more, if you want to contact, you can scan that. That takes to my LinkedIn page, or you can also tag me or send me a DM in Discord. I am in the GameCity Kajaani Discord. I'm also available for any kind of coaching or mentoring, especially when it comes to AI tool usage or how to use it for things that you might have not even thought about. So don't be a stranger. Happy to help if I in any way can. Thank you.